My name is Dante and this is Story Hub. Am I an idiot for not taking my daughters when my ex gave birth? My ex-wife, Emma, and my wife, Laura, were pregnant around the same time. Laura was about 10 weeks ahead of Emma. In November, Laura gave birth to our son a few days after his due date. 3 days after he and Laura came home, I received a panicked call from my sister-in-law asking if I could take my daughters, female 9, twins, as Emma had been taken to hospital the night before and was being taken for a C-section. My sister-in-law and my brother had taken the girls in overnight but weren't able to take them for long due to lack of space as they have 4 children themselves. My sister-in-law said that Emma was looking at a minimum of 5 days in hospital and then the baby would need to stay in hospital for a while. The baby came home just before Christmas. I told my sister-in-law that we couldn't take the girls because we had just had our son and we were wanting to spend the time just bonding as a family of 3. My sister-in-law angrily told me that having my new son didn't cancel out the fact I already had 2 daughters. I apologized and told her that I couldn't take them in right now but I would send her some money to help out while they have the girls. If we hadn't just brought him home, I would have taken the girls but Laura and I had already decided that we didn't want any guests for the first few weeks and I had told Emma this. While Emma was in the hospital, the girls stayed with sister-in-law and my brother another night before they went to stay with Emma's husband's parents. While the baby was in hospital, because Emma and her husband were spending most of their time at the hospital, they were cared for a lot by Emma's in-laws or my sister-in-law and brother. After a week or so, Laura and I offered to take the girls but they told us they didn't want to stay because we were more focused on our son. It did feel like they were just parroting what they had heard from the adults around them. Though admittedly with the sleepless nights I did forget some things such as the video call with the girls. After the baby came home and everything settled down with them, she sent me a long email in the middle of the night explaining that she was disappointed in my actions and thought that I would see this as a medical emergency and I wouldn't need to be asked to take them in. I told her that we had just had a son and I had to think about his needs as well, especially when there were plenty of people around them to care for them. Emma told me that any communication is to now go through the lawyer because she's fed up with dealing with me and is going to take me to court to get full custody instead of 50/50. I didn't think it was unreasonable to not take them and given we had just had a baby. Laura wants me to fix it as we can't afford my child maintenance more than doubling if Emma gets full custody. Am I an idiot for not taking my daughters in? Here's some more information. My sister-in-law and brother live in a small 3-bedroom house. Having my daughters there as well meant that they were struggling more than usual for space. I don't blame them for not being able to take them full-time. They are saving up for a bigger house. Don't get me wrong, I love my daughters. I cherish the time I get with them. If I lost custody, I know Emma wouldn't allow me to get to see them. She had wanted full custody when we divorced, but I fought for 50/50. She was angry about the divorce. Not an idiot. Everyone knew what was happening and the guests needed to plan effectively. Your family is way out of line and needs to understand the importance of being there, completely for a newborn. I would have a serious talk about boundaries if I were you and consider going no contact with all of them. You're an idiot. I couldn't even finish reading this. The words taken the girls in and guests did me in. They're your responsibility, yours, not sister-in-law's. They're literally your children, so you can't take them in because they literally belong to you. And they aren't guests because they literally share your DNA with you all. I honestly can't believe you would pass up the time to have all 3 of your children bond together early. You know, your baby's literal sisters. Grow up. You're an idiot. Your daughters are quite old enough to realize that your bonding as a family of 3 means they've lost status even if you didn't say those words to them. They get it. You proved it by not being there for them when they didn't have their mom. Edit to add. I was seeing so red that the last bit didn't register. You're apparently okay with not seeing your daughters except for Laura doesn't want you to have to pay more child support. Holy hell. I hope your ex sees this post and deduces that this is her family being discussed and nails you for it. You're the idiot of the year to date. You're an idiot. You want family time but don't consider your daughters, your son's sisters, family. You left your children to be passed around from household to household during a medical emergency. You just forgot to video call your daughters after the birth of their brother. It sounds like the girls know exactly where they stand with you when they say you are focused on your son, your new family. And faced with losing custody of your children, your big concern is you can't afford my child maintenance. You're the idiot again, just to make sure you know. Now for the next story. Am I an idiot for lying to my daughter and giving her money to my son? I, male 54, have 2 children, female 23, and male 21. With my wife, 52 Fahrenheit. When the kids were young, my parents set up education funds for both of them, which was very generous of them. My wife and I always expected our kids to attend college and then graduate school, as we have done. I have a PhD, my wife has a master's. Because of this, we decided not to use the funds for our kids' undergrad degrees and did not tell them about the money. My daughter has always been more into the liberal arts, while my son is more of a STEM guy. My wife and I worried about her ability to find a job, but she insisted on studying music and film in college. She was accepted to some top schools and chose to attend a rather expensive one. But she had scholarships to cover almost all of her tuition. Everything else, plus living expenses, was her responsibility. She lived in a very small apartment shared with friends in a not-so-nice area far from campus, but she was fine and learned how to budget effectively. After graduating, she luckily found a job that doesn't pay extremely well but she enjoys it, and scrapped the idea of grad school. My son decided to do engineering, and he also expressed that he had no interest in grad school. My wife and I were disappointed, but accepted it since at this point he is already all set up with a very good job when he completes school. Since he did not receive as many scholarships as his sister, we decided to use his education fund to cover his tuition and living expenses. He was able to get a large and nice apartment of his own close to the school, which is important since his classes are so demanding and he needs a comfortable space to work. My daughter was confused and asked how he could afford this, and he told her about the education fund. She called us and asked why she didn't have one, and we told her she did. We just didn't use it because we hoped she would attend grad school. She seemed hurt by this and asked if there was any way she could have the money now. We explained that there would be a fee to simply withdraw the money for non-education uses, and if we chose to do that it would belong to her grandparents so they could put it towards their own use. She's been quiet and short when answering our texts, and hasn't answered our calls at all since then. I know that it seems unfair to her, but it's not really her money in the first place and she's no longer in college. Plus, her brother only received it for educational purposes and it wouldn't be right for her to just have it to spend now. Am I an idiot? Update. I understand the consensus is that my wife and I are the awe. I texted my daughter to ask if she wanted us to withdraw the money for her, what she wanted to do. This was her response, I don't care. Maybe they can transfer it to if the fee is seriously too much. Ike about grad school. I haven't thought about it much recently. If I do apply it wouldn't be for another couple years and I hadn't been counting on having any financial help in the first place so it really doesn't even matter. Thanks for asking though. Update 2. My wife and I are discussing our daughter's response and our next actions to resolve this situation. For context, my wife has always had a strained relationship with my daughter and did not approve of many of her life choices. She believes we should take our daughter's words at face value and assume she no longer wants the money. From some of the responses here, I fear that my daughter's response was out of resentment and I suggested taking out as much money as her brother was given so at least they received the same amount. She could use it responsibly towards rent, groceries, transportation, etc. or in some other way to further her career, so it would still be for educational purposes in a sense. My wife is standing firm in her opinion, and we will continue talking it through tomorrow. Many have asked about where my parents stand on this. At this point, they are not mentally aware enough to really participate in the discussion. They did know about our grad school stipulation and thought it was fine. They also knew that we took out some money for our son once we were certain he was not pursuing an advanced degree, and were fine with that as well. They said it was our decision as parents what to do with our daughter's fund, and they would support whatever we decided for her. It wouldn't be useful to ask them what to do with it now, but I have always said that whatever is unused will go back to their care. I have tried to call my daughter with no luck, which is why I sent the text. Despite what many have said here, I hope this does not end our relationship. You're the idiot and oh dear, just goes to show you that having PhD and a master's does neither make you a good parent or smart in any way. You're an idiot. So let me get this right. Your daughter attended college and had a scholarship. Your son attended college with no scholarship. You chose to not let your daughter use her college fund for everything that her scholarship didn't cover, and you let your son use his for everything. The college fund you said wasn't even her money but isn't yours either. What exactly do you plan to do with her college money? You're an idiot. Do you know why all that you did seems unfair to your daughter? Because it is unfair to your daughter. You had the ability to use the funds to cover her living expenses during undergraduate. This, of course, is a bit bizarre. Are you a trustee of a trust? Or did the grandparents set up a 529 plan and give you full control over it? Yet you did not even tell your daughter about these funds. Talk about a faithless trustee. At this point, you need to grovel. You need to apologize for substituting your judgment as to the best way to use the funds for your daughter's judgment. You need to make amends. Then you need to circle back and see what the terms of your parents' request were. And, honestly, I'd get an attorney to do this for you as you've already demonstrated your judgment is beyond suspect. Most trusts have provisions for disbursement of the corpus if the purposes cannot be fulfilled. I doubt, honestly, though, that your parents meant for their gift to be returned to them in the event that their grandkids didn't go to college or in the event that they didn't need the money for college. And don't even get me started on favoritism. You used the funds for your son to enjoy a cushy life during his undergraduate studies, but didn't do the same for your little girl. Really? Seriously? Now for the last story. Am I an idiot for being racist to my son's girlfriend? I, male 39, and I have a son, 17M, who recently got a girlfriend. His girlfriend is black and a very nice, kind and beautiful young lady. I have met her and invited her for dinner and family events plenty of times and she's a joy to be around. But recently my mother has been staying with us because she is recovering from a surgery she had and she's going on 70 years old so she can't do much on her own. Long story short, my mother is a classic racist and being a raging narcissist and she is not one to hold back from her opinions. I showed her a photo of my son and his girlfriend and she went on a 2-hour rant about bloodlines and kept saying they don't look right, and when I said she was coming to dinner she said doesn't want the girl near her because it'll disturb her, so last minute I told her she could not come. My son has been trying to invite his girlfriend over every day since, but I said no multiple times due to his grandmother being here and her saying she doesn't want her near her. I just don't want any problems. But he argues that I am being a complacent racist by even allowing her to be here, and even more so for not allowing her to come over to protect a racist. He says I should have told her to leave the moment my mother said all that stuff. But my mother is an elderly woman who can hardly make it on her own as it is. Definitely much harder after surgery. Though I don't agree with her, I can just leave her to fend for herself. I literally do not know what to do. My wife says my son is right about me being complacent, but of course she'd agree because her and my mother don't get along well. I know I am not a damned racist, but now everyone is saying I am aiding one by taking my mother's side. So am I an idiot? You're an idiot. Hey Opus, your wife doesn't agree with your son because she doesn't get along well with your mother. She agreed with him because he was right. Story time. I am half black. My mother is white and my stepfather, I'll call him Dad, is white. While visiting my dad's dying grandfather in the hospital, one of my dad's uncles made some extremely racist comments. My dad started arguing with him because, well, we are his daughter and you don't talk about this man's daughters like that. Out of nowhere, Grandpa shoots up, gets out his hospital bed while his monitors are going crazy, walks over and punches my dad's uncle so hard he falls on his ass. Grandpa proceeded to say that he would rather die right then and there than watch someone he loves be so incredibly racist to such loving, kind children. Grandpa kicked that uncle out the room and that man wasn't allowed back in. And Grandpa made everyone promise not to let him go to his funeral. Opus, that's what you said. Your son's girlfriend is nice and kind, yet you are 100% allowing your mother to say whatever she wants and saying your son's girlfriend isn't allowed over because of this. This girl has done nothing and will now remember this for a long time. You are punishing your son and his girlfriend because your mother is racist.